Elana Freeland has been on the trail of flushing out those who abuse the public and public funding for decades. Her forte is in clarifying and tying together multiple levels of issues and perpetrators, and then contextualizing how they all work together, not just for greed and power, but for more esoteric objectives. She's the author of Chemtrails, HARP, and the Full Spectrum Dominance of Planet Earth, and Under an Ionized Sky, From Chemtrails to Space Fence Lockdown. And we do have those books for sale out in the lobby. And she's now writing the third and last book in the series about synthetic biology and transhumanism. You may read more about Elana at her website, elanafreeland.com. Elana, welcome.
Thank you. Oh, here, Melissa. Hello, everyone. Oops, I think I'll go over here. Well, I loved Clifford's talk today. He was more forthcoming, more open than I've seen him in a long time. And I can't believe how perfect my presentation is to follow his. We'll see if you agree. All right, my glasses. Okay. All right, good. Okay, let's hope that this works now. I've been having lots of electronics problems lately. All right, there's the book. That's the most recent one. It's out there for sale, as you know. This is the one, just to be clear, this is the one, Under an Ionized Sky is the book that really talks about the space fence and how the infrastructure is set up on planet Earth and set up in near Earth orbit. It's a two-pronged control factor over all of life on planet Earth. It is about the doctrine, the military doctrine of full spectrum dominance. Okay. So the other book out there, Chemtrails, HARP, and the Full Spectrum Dominance of Planet Earth, that one I wrote in 2014, and that one is, to my knowledge, the only book that has a thorough chapter on Clifford Carnicom's work, and that is chapter 8, and it talks about Morgellons, the discovery process that he went through. I did my best. I read, at that point, I think it was 150 papers. I read those and tried to simplify the process for a reader, and that's, to me, one of the best. There's two good things about that book, besides the fact that I go into the earthquakes of Fukushima, Sandy, Katrina, etc., and show how HARP was used in all those earthquakes. But the second chapter is a breakdown of Bernard Eastland's HARP patent, the High Frequency Active Auroral Research Project. I'm going to go a little bit into some of the history. I never know what crowd I have. You may be familiar with some things and you don't know about others, so I'm just going to run through it as quickly as I might. Now and then I'll be reading things from my notes, but mostly I'll just be talking. All right, first I would like to dedicate this talk to some activists who have been targeted for their activism, in my opinion. First, of course, is Michael J. Murphy. Michael Murphy was the director of What in the World Are They Spraying and Why in the World Are They Spraying? And he was almost done with the third film, he basically disappeared into madness and homelessness and drugs. He is now on the streets, the last time I checked, of, what's the name of that Inglewood, outside LA. That's where he is. And I haven't seen Michael now in 2 years. So it goes in this movement that I know many of you depend on activists like me and others to give you the real skinny on this technology. And I know you appreciate us. I get emails all the time from people who appreciate me, but I want you to know the perils that follow from this work so that you can possibly think about it regarding your own involvement. And I don't mean to keep you from involvement just because it's kind of scary. It's very satisfying work to stand with the truth. I'm sure you know that. Here is Rosalind Peterson. Rosalind, to the best of my knowledge, died of a cancer, which I don't have any theory about. I assume it was something developing over time. I hope that it was a natural death from cancer. That sounds bizarre. But Rosalind was important to all of us. She was the first vanguard of this movement. And she was an extraordinary person. Let me just read to you. She died on February 4, 2018. She spoke at the September 5 through 7, 2007 United Nations 60th Annual DPI/NGO Conference and gave a talk called Climate Change, How It Impacts Us All. She was invaluable because she researched the U.S. Navy's sonar programs and made distinct ties and connections with the massive animal die-offs in the ocean and the Navy's sonar programs. She was a crop inspector for the USDA and was one of two early voices in the 90s about the jet spraying going on. Then, of course, I'm totally indebted to Billy Hayes, the HARP man. After Chemtrails HARP came out in 2014, I was on Coast to Coast. Billy was one of the 300 people who contacted me after I was on that show and told me that he thought that I had written the book that he's been talking about for many years and trying to wake people up to what's going on. Billy was an MK-Ultra survivor of the CIA. His father worked for the CIA, and Billy worked for the CIA from the time he was 8 years old until up to this very day. I feel that they still impact his life. He was a tower erector. He worked on HARP up in Gakona, Alaska. He's worked on 240 installations around the world, calibrating them and setting them up for what we now call the space fence. And it was Billy that alerted me to the fact that the chemtrails story was important, but that it actually led to something even more important, which was the space fence lockdown. So Billy and I had many, many conversations on Skype, and he is now, his health is very bad, and he's struggling to live. Then there was Canadian activist Suzanne Mar Mossman, a wonderful person I met when I gave a talk in Toronto years ago. And Suzanne was brutally attacked with microwaves and has now basically withdrawn from the movement. And now we have Patrick Roddy in San Francisco, who has been evicted from his apartment. His car has been stolen, his bank account compromised, and Patrick is basically looking for somewhere to live and people to help him. That's the most recent activist that is paying the price. And what Patrick was doing was very laudatory, but I tried to warn him that it was probably dangerous. He was petitioning the city of San Francisco for the death records of people who have died of lung ailments in the last 10 years. All of us have faced what I call the big lie, and I have to quote from Mein Kampf for this one. In the big lie, there is always a certain force of credibility because the broad masses of a nation are always more easily corrupted in the deeper strata of their emotional nature than consciously or voluntarily. And I don't know about you, but I have noticed tremendous emotion in people these days. as if, I mean, you don't bring up the Trump word, that goes without saying, but everything else is emotional, and reactionary mind is going crazy. So it appears to me that may be a symptom of what Clifford was talking about this morning, this transfer from the geoengineering to the bioengineering. I would guess, and hopefully I'll get to it, that this over-emotionalism is being quickened and stimulated possibly by the pulsing of frequencies that it bring the emotions to an extreme. Now, this is basically our condition, what we're facing. This little clip that I took from of Elon Musk, my favorite guy that is being used as a poster boy for all kinds of things that we're facing. I'll see if I can get my computer to work.
Around you right now at work, or if you're watching this at home. Most of your kids, they're on their tablet, they're on their phone. Most of your co-workers are on their phone. You go to a park, most people are on their phones, or they're merged with the machine in a way that has become way too acceptable to humanity.
And
but
that
billions of people with enhanced cognitive ability, radically enhanced.
Yes.
And which would be, how much different than people today? Like if you had to explain it to a person who didn't really understand what you were saying, like how much different are you talking about? When you say radically improved, like what do you mean? You mean mind reading?
It would be difficult. It would be difficult to really appreciate the difference. It's kind of like how much smarter are you with a phone or computer than without? You're vastly smarter, actually. You can answer any question if you're connected to the internet. You can answer any question pretty much instantly. Any calculation. Your phone's memory is essentially perfect. You can remember flawlessly. Your phone can remember videos, pictures, everything perfectly. Your phone is already an extension of you. You're already a cyborg. Most people don't realize they are already a cyborg. That phone is an extension of yourself. It's just that the data rate, the rate at which, of the communication rate between you and the cybernetic extension of yourself, that is your phone and computer, is slow. It's very slow. And that is like a tiny straw of information flow between your biological self and your digital self. And we need to make that tiny straw like a giant river, a huge, high bandwidth interface. It's an interface problem, data rate problem. Solve the data rate problem, then I think we can hang on to human machine symbiosis through the long term. And then people may decide that they want to retain their biological self or not. I think they'll probably choose to retain their biological self.
Versus some sort of Ray Kurzweil scenario where they download themselves into a computer?
You will be essentially snapshotted into a computer at any time. If your biological self dies, you could probably just upload into a new unit. Literally.
Pass that whiskey. We're getting crazy over here.
You might want to retain your biological unit. So another way of looking at it, here's Ron Johnson. Ron is always very bold in his assertions. But in this particularly, he's going to talk about cell towers, and I don't mind what he says about cell towers. They too are weaponized, absolutely. We knew that 5 or 6 years ago, actually. We had lots of as much as we have about 5G now coming out, We had that about the cell towers. But pay attention to the Matra weapons. That's the important part. That part has to do with my presentation later in my slideshow.
The possibility to exterminate an entire country can occur at the flip of a switch without warning and without the possibility to shelter. Ladies and gentlemen, these cell phone towers are not what they seem. The standard range for communication towers is about 10 to 20 miles. Yet there are hundreds, if not thousands, in every major city. They normally keep the power on low, but these towers can get jacked up and have enough power to nuke a city near you, like a giant microwave oven. These towers, disguised as telecommunications towers, can deliver death at the speed of light. No anti-missile defense system needed. No early detection is possible. The power running through these units is equivalent to hundreds of microwave ovens. They are giant microwave oven towers, and the oven is your city. And in any major city, there are dozens per square mile. They can light you up like a candlestick. And little by little, these things have gone up everywhere. People look at them, oh look, another cell phone tower. If people only understood, these aren't just cell phone towers. These towers are extermination towers. The World Health Organization recently classified cell phone towers and cell phone radiation as a health hazard, and that's putting it mildly. However, with just a slight modification of these towers, that is to say, a flip of a switch, these towers can be transmitting microwaves of a deadly nature. You could call this idea government-sanctioned extermination by cell tower. But officially it's called silent weapons for quiet wars. And in the wrong hands, these ideas could be called cell tower terrorism. And nobody wants to say a word about it because they couldn't possibly live without their cell phone. A foreign power could hijack our communications network tomorrow and nuke the population without them even knowing it or being able to do anything about it. The scenarios here are endless. These towers have looked like virtual guard towers since the beginning, and it only makes sense that they could be able to shoot rays into designated zones. And by what we've stumbled upon so far, it looks like these cell phone towers are just a small piece to another rather complex puzzle. We've discovered numerous U.S. patents regarding various delivery methods for nano-sized weapons triggered by electromagnetic waves. These weapons are called matro weapons, M-A-T-R-O, matro weapons, consisting of nano-micro capsules containing DNA or chemicals for transfection purposes. That's a mouthful. But what that means is they can deliver tiny capsules the size of dust, smaller than dust, that can enter your cells and that can release DNA or chemicals and turn you into a GMO, a genetically modified organism. Transfection is what they do to make GMOs. And instead of turning a tomato into a tomato, they can turn people into something else. They can deliver these nano-micro capsules through aerial dispersal, by driving a car down a street, into any populated area. People will breathe it in, drink it in, rub it in, and then they can be activated via frequency transmission. These micro bubbles can contain DNA or chemicals. And what would be the purpose of that? They could fake an outbreak in a designated area by activating a cell phone array. They could do it for a specific neighborhood or for an entire city, and nobody would be the wiser. And nobody would be looking for transgenic microbubbles as the source of the infection. All of this technology is well documented. It absolutely exists, and the question you should be asking yourself here is, do you want a nuclear weapon disaster parked in your neighborhood? You can call it a cell phone tower if you want to, but it's a nuclear bomb just waiting to go off. It just needs the right hacker or the right rogue state or the wrong politician to push the button. Do you trust a politician? Given what we know about our government, they probably already have this plan set up to nuke us all in case things go wild. If we don't accept their New World agenda, all they have to do is flip a switch, and there ain't no bulletproof vest for that.
Now that's enough of him, but this is the electromagnetic part added to the chemical part and the nanoparticle part. These are the things that I'm now paying very close attention to because it is moving from geoengineering to bioengineering. And I am writing the third and last, I hope, book on this topic because my discovery process just has to slow down after this. I keep saying to myself. The synthetic biology book, how all two of the other books tie into the synthetic biology lockdown of the Space Fence program. So here with the cell towers, I think you can see that they keep everything in the ionized atmosphere cooking. Everything is cooking all the time, 24/7, as many of the metal nanoparticles that we've breathed in that have fallen from jet trails, contrails of whatever you want to call it, from jets, rockets, and drones. This is all of a piece. It's as Clifford was saying this morning, everything's connected. And so that's what I'm going to do is go through these. Now here, I showed this last year, and I want to show it again. This is what is being formed around our planet. You notice on the cover of Under an Ionized Sky, I have a Saturn-like ring. Well, this is why.
Scientists have discovered a human-made barrier around Earth, protecting against the natural particle radiation in space. They believe the bubble was formed by very low-frequency waves, or VLFs. VLFs have been found to interact with the particles in space, affecting how and where they move. VLFs are used for radio communications, including with submarines, because they can penetrate deep into the ocean. The waves can also travel far into the environment around Earth. By understanding more about how VLF transmissions help shape our space environment, we learn more about this complex region surrounding us. The more we know, the more situational awareness we have to protect our satellites from natural radiation in space.
So he makes it sound like they just discovered it. It sort of just appeared like the Easter Bunny or something. But really, yes, it is in part from all of our radio frequency, microwave frequencies, all the electromagnetics that we are now dependent upon in our civilization. Yes, that's part of it. Certainly it is. But it also, I believe, has to do with what is being laid in space, in near-Earth orbit, I call it, up there to go with the space fence lockdown down here. The heavy metals are being laid there as well. And many, many trillions and trillions of tiny nano-sized sensors that are picking up data all the way from atmospheric data to various solar events. Everything that the sensors can pick up, they are transmitting back to Earth. And that, too, is part of this program that we are all now subject to, and we certainly never voted on it or anything so democratic as that. We've just inherited it sight unseen. Part of that, what's floating around or what's making a ring around the planet, has to do with dusty plasma. And I will talk about dusty plasma. It's important because they are retro-engineering dusty plasma in what you hear as being smart dust. And this is everywhere now. You can see it on your desktop. You can see it anywhere that you take a look at the dust. This is not just the old dust that we were accustomed to and it's time for a house cleaning. This is smart dust. So dusty plasma is everywhere. This came out just in last month. The sun has several dusty rings surrounding it, including faint ones near the orbits of Venus and Earth, and of course, the asteroid belts out beyond Mars and Neptune. But now 2 new studies have found evidence of new rings in the inner solar system, a dusty one in the orbit of Mercury and a new set of asteroids following Venus's path around the sun. So what this says to me, and admittedly, I'm an amateur, but I have been observing all of the dusty plasma, smart dust, metals, etc., being spewed in these sounding rocket launches that are endless as they go up into, in a parabolic fashion, up to the near-Earth orbit. And I would say, and I'd be happy to be wrong, I would say that they are forming this dusty plasma and making sure that it is above our upper atmosphere as well, beyond the ionosphere, even possibly beyond the magnetosphere. So something's going on a solar system level, and that has to do with me positing that we have all been inducted into a secret space program that Catherine Austin Fitts speaks of often, and she's an investment analyst friend of mine. So the rocket exhaust we see above us, yes, this is dusty plasma. Notice how small the particles are, particularly of the aluminum oxide, 0.01 to 10 micro, how do you say that? Microns, thank you. Charged dust may be trapped in the Earth's B field. Yes, it is. Particles may reach high altitudes and contribute to seed population for seeding clouds, basically. Here, I read this book. It's a short book. It's very interesting. It was written by Norman Berggren, who was a PhD alumnus of Ames Research Lab, and he worked for NASA. He was very hooked into the missiles and rockets programs of the 50s and 60s. And here he goes through and looks at the rings of Saturn. And there again, we have dusty plasma, but very organized. I think you'll find the book shocking. I did. I don't want to tell you the punchline, though. So you can get it in an interlibrary loan if you are so inclined. Here is where we live. We live down in the teeny-weeny little troposphere down there. Notice it's basically 18 kilometers up to the stratosphere. That would be 9, 10, 11, 12 miles, 12 miles. This is the ionosphere at the very top is what HAARP concentrated on up here. And above the ionosphere up here is the magnetosphere, going up 22,000 kilometers. So let's just remember that. It's very hard to remember that, isn't it, as we have our personal lives, our political lives, our everything lives, to remember that we're living on a planet speeding through space. Okay. There's the magnetosphere. I've learned a great deal from Christopher Fontenot, who spoke here last year, about the Birkeland currents. Christopher has made a real study of the Birkeland currents that connect us basically with the sun. These are the magnetic lines of force that you will see again and again in Bernard Eastland's patent for HAARP, that he talks about how all of that has been altered. Now, CERN has something to do with altering the magnetosphere. I'm not entirely sure of all that is going on at CERN. For those who don't know what it is, let me just say here, in 1954, the high-energy particle accelerator known as CERN was built. Its logo has received a lot of attention, as the logo is basically 666. CERN examines particles in their initial state, looking for the, quote, glue, the God particle, that holds matter together. Other particle accelerators are in Waxahachie, Texas, and Brookhaven National Lab in New York. CERN is doing a great deal of things, and I, in the Under an Ionized Sky. You can read about it in Chapter 10. I entitled the chapter, for good reason, The Temple of CERN. So let's see here what BP Watch has to say. I really like him. He's very involved in analyzing data on the web.
May the 29th, 2017. Guys, you're looking at the magnetopoles. This is the model of our Earth shields, and it's being generated by the 3 different satellites, or 4, that you see orbiting in that white circle, the GOS 15, 14, 13, and the South Korean COMS. You see those bendings right there, guys, both at the north and solar and south poles of our magnetopoles. It only occurs when CERN is running at very high power. Look at this. It's incredible. Now, they're not at universal time as you try to match the quakes and the pulses from both the magnetopoles and from the USGS. They use Geneva, Switzerland time, a couple hours difference there, so remember that. Here's our pulsing, guys. Remember in the video before this, I said we saw 2 very high impact walls of solar wind speed come in. It matches all of this information. Again, look at the difference between UTC time and Geneva, Switzerland time, and you can see exactly what's happening. Now, what's different this year is they have the new linear accelerator in place. But look at this when they had to dump a few moments ago. Look in the right section right here. It looks like a star field. Unbelievable. But this is dumping the beams in the B section of the collider. This information here is critical. Pay attention to it. A lot of you have seen it in previous videos. But as the solar wind strikes the Earth shields, there's energy that's created that causes the auroras, different things like that. But notice that you have region 1, which is incoming, and region 2, which is outgoing energy. Now, when that happens, it creates ground currents in the Earth. Hall currents, Peterson currents. Notice that. Very important. Incoming and outgoing energy here. Now, why is CERN built underground in the northern hemisphere? You just saw it. To take advantage of these ground currents. Now, a few years ago, they launched a series of satellites. They went through what was called plasma tubes that connect the sun and the earth. It has to do with our shields. It has to do with the placement of our planet in the orbit around our sun, and they're huge. This drawing does not really do it justice because some of the sizes, as we've seen the input come in, almost completely encircle our planet. But these tubes connect the earth and the sun. And then what happens? As that energy is increased, the magnetic lines of force that we use for our compasses, that the whales and the birds use for navigation, they become these plasma tubes also. There's a tremendous amount of energy that's going into the core of our planet. CERN is situated exactly where they need to be to not only take energy from this to power their demonic machines, but they can actually manipulate, because remember, you had currents going in and going out, because in that connection with the earth and the sun, they can pull in there and actually affect what we're seeing on the solar surface. Their new machine has put them well over 100,000 times as strong as far as their magnetic field compared to the Earth's magnetic field. Look, we saw the first pulse this afternoon to the left of this, caused a 6-point earthquake. Then another sudden pulse. Guys, this is not coronal mass ejections. This is not solar wind coming from a coronal hole. These are pulses that are being emitted. Look at the time between here and look at CERN. These people are on the verge of causing utter destruction. We're already in the period of solar minimum with weak shields. Now, if they're using the ability to tie into the entire magnetic fields that connect the Earth and the Sun through these plasma tubes with a magnetic field that keeps the Earth in balance with the Sun, but theirs is over 100,000 times stronger. They admit it on their website. Either way, this is not popular information. It cost me every video that I put up in 2015 over 700 as they hacked my channel and removed everything in it that was heavily concentrated about CERN and the effects on our planet. The hacks came out of Paris, France, not far away. Guys, you're seeing a group of mad scientists about to utterly create chaos on our planet. If they're going to bring it down on me again, they might as well go ahead and get it over with. We're watching it, guys. It's a heads up. Be safe.
So he touches on, each time I hear this video, I think of how I could go off on 7 or 8 ideas he gives a clue to that would help me to understand how we are now in a solar minimum. We hear about solar flares, we hear about solar winds, we hear about CMEs, we hear about a lot of things, in particular from some people that who do fantastic videos that I don't trust at all. And the idea is that, oh, this is all natural. This is all coming from the solar minimum, from the sun, from whatever. And that is not what he's saying. He's saying that we have implements like CERN that can affect the sun, that can affect the solar minimum, that can affect all of the solar weather, just as we have implements that are affecting the weather on planet Earth. So very important, very important. All right, there's the plasma tubes. Again and again, I've said in many talks, radio and other talks, that there are so many plasma experiments going on in our atmosphere and in the stratosphere due to the fact that it's all basically ionized. It's all basically sort of a mini ionosphere now. And this plasmaizing of the magnetic lines of force is very interesting, and we need to know this. And if you were wondering, you may have seen this photo at some point in a video that came out a couple of years ago. This is if you were looking at sunset through one of the plasma tubes. That gives you an idea of how when you're seeing things up there, it may be a solar simulator. It may be a reflectivity of the one sun into another sun, because our atmosphere now is very mirror-like due to the ionization process. But it could just as well be you happen to catch a look at the sun through one of these plasma tubes. So now we all know this with our eyes closed, right? This is the, oops, what happened to you? Whoa, 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 whoa. What happened, Jackson? It flipped back. So I'm like, I don't know. I'm like 20 in, I would say.
It's not like in me doing anything. Maybe we should try switching it. It just disappeared. Maybe we should try the power.
Thumb drive? Could I get my purse? Oh, wait, I have it. Never mind. I've got it right here. Just for such an occasion as this. Are you going to put yours up? Yeah, because mine is very undependable these days. Sorry, I have to dig through everything here to get to it. Oh, okay. Will I be able to use the mouse with yours or not? So while we're waiting for that, you saw the picture of HARP. Let me just refresh your memory on how extraordinary HARP was when it first came out. HARP is a phased array with 180 antenna units. Oh, wait a minute, I think I've heard that term phased array. Let's see now. Oh yeah, 5G phones are phased arrays. And so is 4G. 4G has a phased array antenna in it. Every 4G has a phased array antenna in it, which means to me that the 5G breakout that is supposedly coming and scheduled actually already began a long time ago. HARP is a phased array with 180 antenna units organized in 15 columns by 12 rows, yielding a maximum gain of 31 decibels. Originally, it was jointly managed by the U.S. Air Force, U.S. Navy, and the Defense, DARPA, in conjunction with the Geophysical Institute of the University of Alaska at Fairbanks. Its patents have changed hands several times, but were originally owned by Raytheon Corporation. Oh, Raytheon, yes. Number 2 in the world as a military contractor. The second largest U.S. military contractor after Lockheed Martin. Oh, Lockheed Martin is number 1, and Lockheed Martin owns all the patents for the space fence. The line between the CIA and these big corporate players in the military-industrial complex is non-existent. HARP was unique in that its transmitter power appeared to be just millions of watts, but with an effective radiated power, an ERP, multiplied to billions of watts. By developing coherent phasing and accurate in-phase timing with other ionospheric heaters, this is the advantage of phased array antennas. These waves can be pulsed via high-frequency interfering transmission beams to designated areas on and below the surface of the planet. From the mid-90s to the summer of 2013, the HARP ionospheric heater was used for exotic and dangerous experiments in the ionosphere that have had devastating effects on both our magnetosphere and the troposphere, that's us. HARP is part of a global ionospheric heater network, many of which are smaller and now mobile. HARP technology, or the solid-state phased array radar system, SSPARS, has been multiplied into a C4 global system of command, control, communication, and cyber warfare. Strategically placed sky heaters now stretch for miles under a sustained cloud deck. HARP is now up and running again. All right, there it is. Just to remind ourselves, this is where we began with that great acronym from Nick Begich and Gene Manning, Angels Don't Play This HARP, 1995. That was the first time I had a military helicopter over my house for 5 minutes as they put me on their XY grid, I suppose. The ability of the HARP/Spacelab/rocket combination to deliver very large amounts of energy comparable to a nuclear bomb anywhere on Earth via laser and particle beams is frightening. That was said by Dr. Rosalie Bertell, a great hero, along with Rachel Carson and everyone else, who wrote the book Planet Earth, The Latest Weapon of War, a critical study into the military and the environment. And she wrote that several years ago. Here we can see what it looked like over Japan just before Fukushima. That's radio frequency in operation, pulsing. and that's HARP. HARP was completely used in the Fukushima event. But not just HARP. Because of the way the weapon works, let's see if I have the, here it is. Because of the way that weapon works with ionospheric heaters, you have to have another beam from another ionospheric heater that will cross over the target area. It's called interferometry. It is the weapon of choice now for producing any major weather events that are destructive in the extreme. For scalar understanding, I recommend reading, because I am no expert in it, I study it myself, reading retired Lieutenant Colonel Tom Bearden's February 1992 essay, Background for Pursuing Scalar Electromagnetics. I discuss the drama behind the disappearance of E.T. Whittaker's potentials in Chapter 3 of Under an Ionized Sky, along with the disappearance of the concept of ether. That's a really important chapter because I'm covering some things that really were removed on purpose so that this science could remain in the hands of a select few.
Mr. Chairman, and thank you to
And
all
here,
of you this morning.
is the sound
Very
system
interesting.
working?
I wanted to ask a couple questions
Maybe turn
here
it up.
about HARP, the High Frequency Active Auroral Research
Here the Air Force
Program.
admits what HARP
Several
has
of
done.
you at the table have a little bit of a piece here. As you know, this is located up in Alaska. It's currently funded by the Air Force Research Lab. It was formerly funded by the Office of Naval Research. One of the prime customers is DARPA, which is currently running experiments at the facilities here. So questions to several of you this morning. I'm told by the president of the University of Alaska that the Air Force has pulled its support for the facility and they're taking steps to demolish it or take it down this summer. He's making the argument that there is other opportunities for us and is trying to find a path where the university might be able to take title to the facility. I'd like to start with you, Dr. Prabhakar. I understand that a lot of folks here on the committee probably don't understand what HARP does. I think most Alaskans don't really know what HARP does or why the agency is involved in it. So a very brief explanation and then a more direct question. Would you be disappointed or would you lose something if HARP were to go away?
Senator Murkowski, as I think you know, one of our programs has been using the HARP facility for the research that it's pursuing. And my understanding is that we did get value out of that interaction. The P in DARPA is projects, and we're not in the business of doing the same thing forever. So very naturally, as we conclude that work, we're going to move on to other topics. So it's not an ongoing need for DARPA, despite the fact that we had actually gotten some good value out of that infrastructure in the past.
Understood. Then to Dr. Walker and Mr. Schaefer then, Dr. Walker, your agency is currently running the facility. I've mentioned that it's our understanding through the president of UAF that the plans are to move forward and demolish the facility this summer. So the question to you is that accurate? Can you explain why? And then perhaps to both you and Mr. Schaefer, is there any benefit in exploring a potential relationship with the University of Alaska to perhaps take over the HARP?
Yeah, thank you, Senator. The Air Force has gotten great value out of HARP in the past. We took over from the Navy
Understatement
and
of the
managed it
year.
and actually did a number of experiment campaigns up there and have finished our work that we're interested in doing up there. We've moving on to other ways of managing the ionosphere, which the HARP was really designed to do, was to inject energy into the ionosphere to be able to actually control it. And but that work has been completed. The Air Force has maintained the site for other government agencies to use for several years now. And with
Oh, the rest is just lies. So yes, the purpose of HAARP was to control the ionosphere, and the subsidiary of that includes setting up a sort of conduit relationship between the ionosphere and our troposphere, so that we have constant electricity, basically, electrical connectivity, wireless connectivity in the troposphere as well as the stratosphere for all the operations that the military industrial intelligence complex has undertaken in this secret space program, basically. Okay, this is, I hate these graphics, but they're somewhat useful. So you see the jet is laying, here we have SRM, right, the solar radiation management fantasy of how the jet lays the so-called contrail, creates a cloud cover, a cirrus cloud cover, which is primarily plasma, is not even a moisture cloud, and then how it deflects the solar energy coming from above. And then we have it used for cloud seeding. We even see the three smokestacks here indicating what's known as the WSAC, the wet surface air cooling method of creating actual moisture clouds. We have this on ships, merchant marine and also Navy ships off the coast. And we have it, we're using to move weather systems across the United States. They will use this to feed the system. They will use radar installations of one sort or another, like a NEXRAD, in order to steer it in a certain direction. Or they'll just steer the jet stream. But here, that's the WSAC, and that includes nuclear stacks as well, by the way. And then what else do we have? Cloud seeding. Oh, and then we have space mirrors. A lot of that has to do with using plasma as a mirroring device. And this is one of the reasons there's so much barium that's released into the atmosphere, is for that. And what else we got here? CO2 capture. Yeah, that's enough. Gives you an idea. Delivery systems for the space fence lockdown. Jet chemical trails, rocket chemical trails, drone chemical trails. GMOs are also part of this delivery system. And vaccinations, I have now decided, are also part of this delivery system. So let me read about the space fence, because I'm not going to play the long 6-minute Lockheed Martin presentation or sales pitch for the space fence. Originally, the space fence was a belt of radar installations across the continental United States under the aegis of the 1980s SDI Star Wars program, tabled until Bernard Eastland's 1987 patent for HAARP cleared the way to develop a 24/7 ionized atmosphere. In 2012, CNN described the space fence as, quote, a series of radar signals managed by the Air Force since the early 1960s that has been tracking an ever-growing pile of rocket and satellite parts and other man-made fragments that zoom around Earth's vicinity at thousands of miles per hour, end quote. CNN then said that the space fence was worn out and needed to be, quote, restrung, unquote. Very interesting word. 5 years on, we still hear very little about the space fence, other than in the context of space garbage and the new unit going up in the Kwajalein Atoll of the Marshall Islands, and of course Lockheed Martin's cool sales pitch videos. The truth is that the space fence is about far more than space debris, satellites, and rockets. In fact, it is CNN's word restrung that points to the truth of what it is about. Like Jade Helm, the military exercise in the American Southwest in 2015, the space fence is about global network-centric warfare, otherwise known to the military as NCW, under an AI system, artificial intelligence, in order to grant them mastery over the human domain. That is the real purpose of the space fence. So meanwhile, from all these delivery systems, including the vaccinations, we have a great deal of aluminum. And this list was made for me by Billy Hayes to show me how they calibrate all the instruments of the space fence together. And they do it chemically and with radio frequency. And how it works is you see those formulae in 1 and 2 for spraying, and yes, fracking, hydraulic fracturing of the oil industry is also involved in the space fence lockdown. Anything that can be electromagnetically, chemically induced as far as calibration goes to control the geomagnetic environment that this particular implement is in will be used. So that includes, let's see now, it's all in the Under an Ionized Sky book, but cell towers, GWEN towers, ground wave emergency network towers, fiber optic cable that you've been sold a real lie on, that it's better for you than the wireless. I think it's just another breed of the same beast. Then the NexRads, the ionosphere heaters that are now mobile. There are hundreds and hundreds of them. I don't know, maybe more. The wind farms, those too can be calibrated because, of course, they're sunk in the ground. And anything that, as you saw when BP Watch was talking, he said that a lot of the energy coming from up top in our upper atmosphere is really being plunged down into the earth, and then it's being drawn out of the earth. It's as though Rosalie Bertell was right, that the entire planet has been changed into a machine. Picture a machine that has an input and an output, and that by the calibration through chemistry, particularly aluminum has a lot of perks to it. Primarily it's cheap. Primarily, it has 4 times the surface area in a nanoparticle that other metals have, and it's conductive. So aluminum is the name of the game, and then also it's in the sounding rockets as well. So this is just a little bit of how Billy tutored me and how this space fence works. The calibration is everything, so they're recalibrating all the time, and now they have it hooked up to an AI system. So we know this. This is the chemtrails. We know this one. Chemical trails, aerosols, whatever you want to call it. But I want to remind you that the term chemtrails comes from the U.S. Air Force Academy. So I have no problem with it. And then, of course, there's the rockets. And here we have Elon Musk's rocket launch for all those wonderful 5G little CubeSats, right? We're all up there now.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
But notice what spews out the back of the rocket. All that. All that. So it's down here as it's launching, and then it's all the way up in the parabolic curve that it takes, all of it falling down here, till it gets to the upper atmosphere. Then some of what it is drawing up there is drawn into the centrifugal force of the Earth as we're spinning. So some of it stays up there, a lot of it still comes down, and a lot of it ends up in that ring around the center of the over the equator. All right, that's how that works. All part of the space fence lockdown. Here we see this on the internet. Oh, it's so pretty. Well, it would be if I didn't know what it was. Those chemicals are quite extraordinary, aren't they? And then this one, this is probably lithium from the color. I've gotten kind of used to looking at lithium. And I wanted to recommend to you that a once friend of mine who has now is not in touch with me anymore. She wrote a wonderful paper in 2016 about some observations she herself made in Oregon State along the coast. She lives in a small town, one of the many small towns on the coast of Oregon. And she wrote a paper after she and 2 other activists were contacted by a whistleblower working for the state of Oregon. He worked in the weather department of some sort. I never found out his job. He disguised himself as Patrick Henry. That was his moniker. And he told her that experiments were being done along the Oregon coast with lithium as a psychoactive drug, and that they were experimenting with various quantities and then checking, hacking into hospital records, clinic records, psychiatrist records in order to see what the fallout was. And so Anne Fillmore, PhD, wrote a paper called Aerosol Experiments Using Lithium and Psychoactive Drugs over Oregon. It was published out of England. You can find it on the net. So here's that geomagnetic field. This was made by Bruce Cathy, a very gifted harmonics, mathematics amateur in New Zealand. Bruce is now dead, an amazing man. He had the sense, I just want to encourage you that your ability to perceive and to observe is still desperately needed. We cannot wait for the experts to tell us what is and what isn't. I'm sure you realize that, which may be part of maybe some hopelessness that you feel, that how are we to find out? Well, we still have our perception. I think Clifford is a fantastic example of that, and our own particular training in whatever fields we're in. And we can see, just as Bruce Cathy did, he was a pilot in New Zealand doing a north-south route. He noticed some things, some anomalies that didn't really fit, and he pursued them. And he was able to finally determine exactly how the geomagnetic field is laid out on the Earth by means of an artifact found off the coast of South America by, I believe it was a National Geographic ship. And he followed that story, and then it was quickly covered up, but not before he had followed it enough to understand that it had been some sort of a device planted in the deep ocean floor that had some sort of antenna-like nature. And because of that, he was able to connect it to something else and something else and something else, and he was able to come up with this fantastic map that you can find at www.worldgrid.net. But this is what BP was talking about. This is what is being activated, and you realize, don't you, that you are being affected by the fact that our geomagnetic field, not just our Schumann resonance, that's going all over the board too. It's varying several hertz every now and then, that this affects you and your life and your psychology. The geomagnetic field is very connected to our emotions and our metabolism. So let's just remember that as we consider personal choices we make in our lives in this era. This is one of the plasma experiments going on. I thought this, you may have seen this on the net. Speaking of observation. So right away, people might want to think it's aliens. I think we could probably think of something before we import aliens. But I mean, it'd be a little shocking to see that over your head, wouldn't it? In my opinion, that's one of the laptop boys. So imagine working on a laptop, and you have a monitor in front of you, and you have a certain scale of electromagnetics and plasma conduction available to you. Why couldn't you make something like that? that would then show in the sky. And you wouldn't care because just about everyone down here doesn't look up. This is Sean Gautreaux. And Sean also is observing what's going on in the skies. Only what Sean's finding is as if, and Clifford, we're reminded here of Operation number 7, the detection of exotic propulsion craft. Very possible. Also, I want to bring up someone who had a great influence on me. I used to email with him. He's dead now. James Trevor Constable, or Trevor James Constable, I can never remember. And Trevor was very involved in Wilhelm Reich technology. He had gone to the desert, as had Reich before he was arrested through the Food and Drug Administration, and then basically killed a week before he was due to get out of prison after his research was stolen. Trevor went to the desert and with infrared film and photographed many extraordinary entities in our sky, that many of which at that time, I don't know what it looks like now with all that's gone on in our troposphere, but back then when Trevor was taking those photographs, they looked a lot like microbial entities, paramecium. When I was in biology in college, I used to look at various microbes under our microscopes. And Trevor died, but he left us something really to think about, that when the Vedas, which are 10,000 years old, 10,000-year-old religious documents, when the Vedas talk about the sky overhead from Earth, they always refer to it as a cosmic sea. And many of these entities definitely look like they're swimming. So anyway, something to think about. Oh yes, here we are. National Space Council resurrected by President Trump. I want to remind you that President Trump's uncle, electrical engineer John G. Trump, was the technical aide directed to cover up the theft of Nikola Tesla's papers upon his death. So why is Trump president? Well, I can't help but feel this may have influenced those who chose this many years ago, or at least a decade ago. That's how elections really are in America now, I think. But anyway, National Space Council has been resurrected. That's supposedly a citizen-run space council. Then he signed a policy directive on traffic management in space, advocating the Space Force, and I think we have the Space Force now, don't we? I think it passed. Is it called a Space Force or a Space Corps? Yeah, Space Force, yes. So we have entered, this is the quiet entry, our quiet entry into the space age. And as I said, and here's Clifford's list that he was talking about this morning, I have tweaked it to my own uses. Clifford has shared it with me. I'm very grateful for it because it helps to give me a structure to what I'm looking at. So I have it down as weather engineering, geoengineering, chemical electromagnetic operations, planetary geophysical operations, directed energy warfare operations, surveillance neural operations, biological transhumanism operations, detection, obscuration of exotic propulsion systems. Still 7. And these are, as Clifford said, the one thing I would add to what he said this morning is that the weather engineering does serve in some ways as they are experimenting with the weather and storm systems, I'll put it that way. It does help to re-energize the ionized atmosphere as well, perhaps on a local level, but it is definitely part of that, of keeping the atmosphere ionized, along with being used politically for political blackmail, and all the other things that are going on with weather engineering. But this is the geoengineering veering toward bioengineering is a very vast program. He who controls the electromagnetic spectrum on Earth controls the living things on the surface of the planet. That's Dr. Jack Kruse. Jack Kruse is very vociferous about the impact of 5G on the mitochondria of our DNA. And now I come to, I'm going to really sort of cook through the next part. This is a very famous quote. I think I showed it last year by Hermes Trismegistus, who may be mythical, but I highly doubt it. I think he's probably somebody. Hermes Trismegistus says, "As above, so below." This is a very old adage of many, of alchemy and of secret brotherhoods that pretty much run this world and this nation. So I'm going to start there. Notice that the figure there, the two-headed figure, is standing on a dragon. And that dragon is the magnetic lines of force in the earth, the geomagnetism. And he is the conqueror. And he holds the key to the sun and the moon. And they're very serious. So the days of the sun and moon running us may be limited, possibly. So here is a nanoscale entity in the nervous system. You can see the axon dendrite set up here. Watch what it does. This is like from a medical standpoint. Right. So these entities are inserted into people with vaccinations, shots, for medical reasons. And we are now entering, because we're going tiny, we're going very, very tiny, submicron, we're in the realm of quantum mechanics, and this is very different from natural mechanics. If you aren't deeply disturbed by quantum mechanics, you clearly haven't understood it, said Richard Feynman. So just before we depart, let's run over the nomenclature of this 1 hertz, 1 cycle per second, all the way down. Let's go down to the gigahertz. You've all heard that the 5G is between 30 and 300 gigahertz. That's billions of cycles per second, billions. And then we have the terahertz. And I just came through the airport and was able to bypass the terrible terahertz millimeter wave X-ray machine. One more success under my belt. Here I want to point out our visible spectrum. Please see how tiny it is. Please see how narrow it is. In a way, I don't know what your belief system is, but my belief system is we have been protected for many millennia from the entities and realities of all the rest of this spectrum, perhaps entities whose bodies are more subtle than ours, not physical bodies, perhaps they're plasma bodies, perhaps they're ether bodies, I don't know what they're called, but we can't see them. And therefore, we've been able to concentrate on human things. We're not distracted by, such as in this room, I'm sure it's filled with all kinds of entities, not just bacteria or little virus or that sort of thing, but it's just how it is. But now things are changing. And now our masters of the universe that sociopathically run this world, they want to enhance our abilities, possibly even to give us the ability to see beyond our own narrow band of visible electromagnetic spectrum. So just to make sure you understand where the 5G is, okay, so radio waves we know, TV broadcast. Mobile phone is getting into the gigahertz, so it's getting a little beyond. We're in the non-ionizing, but that doesn't mean safe, right? You all know that. It's not ionizing radiation. You don't sense heat right away. You could sense heat eventually from all of these probably, but we're beyond this now. Now, gigahertz, mobile phones, smart meters, there's your smart meter, Wi-Fi, 2.4 gigs. And then we get to the microwaves, 3 to 30 gigahertz, okay, microwave oven. I hope you don't still own one. That's incredibly elementary. And then you get over here, right in about here, between the microwaves and the infrared being primarily light, actually, less than heat. Now this is where the 5G will be starting, right in here. All right, so just so we know, this is the kind of stuff you should know. You should sit and study it. You live in a technological era. There's no excuse for not knowing some of this. You'll feel better for it because you'll understand what's in your environment better, including the 60 hertz in your walls, right? All right, then we have the terahertz wave right up here. And the difference between a gigahertz, that's 100 gigahertz. As I recall, this is 1,000 gigahertz. So now we're talking about molecular impact, right? You understand, you have molecules. Yeah, so this is, the terahertz is the next phase in a way. Okay, that's enough. I just wanted to present some of these. I'm working with this too. And then this wonderful film that I've watched a few times. I highly recommend it so you understand your condition.
His name was Winifred Otto Schumann. On the day in question, he was teaching his students about the physics of electricity, how a sphere within a sphere can create electrical tension, and subsequently, a frequency. Schumann's class had struggled to understand the subject, so to make it easier, the professor instructed them to imagine the Earth as one sphere and the ionosphere as another. He then asked them to calculate the tension that would exist in between. Having no idea himself, Schumann also began to calculate. Eventually, he arrived at a frequency of approximately 10 hertz. As incredible as it seemed to Schumann, our planet had a pulse, a measurable frequency that surrounded life on Earth. Although the professor was proud of his find, he didn't see it as a hugely significant one, especially as it was only published in a small science journal, confined to the back pages, under the heading of Schumann resonance. It would take several years and an incredible twist of fate before the professor would begin to realize the true importance of Schumann resonance. That twist of fate had begun 30 years earlier with another German scientist by the name of Hans Berger. Using an EEG machine he had built himself, Berger had made the first ever recording of electrical frequency transmitted by the human brain. It was initially suggested the wave be named after the man who discovered it, but Berger, being a modest man, elected for an alphabetical name and called it the alpha wave. Shortly after Professor Schumann's discovery, one of Hans Berger's colleagues, a man named Dr. Ankermüller, happened to stumble upon a bedraggled copy of a small scientific journal. The exact same small scientific journal that Professor Schumann's discovery had been published in several years before. He read the piece several times, shaking his head in disbelief. He realized instantly the magnitude of what was in front of him. The frequency of the alpha waves, recorded by Hans Berger, were almost identical to Schumann resonance. The frequency of the Earth. Dr. Ankermuller immediately contacted Schumann to convince him to investigate further. Schumann agreed and worked alongside one of his students to refine his discovery. They studied in detail how tension is discharged by lightning in the Earth ionosphere cavity. Eventually, they came up with an exact frequency. The pulse of the Earth, Schumann resonance, was exactly 7.83 Hertz. The discovery was remarkable. Schumann resonance wasn't just similar to the alpha waves of the human brain, it was identical. The brain's frequency, which controlled our creativity, our performance, our stress, anxiety, and our immune system, had somehow tuned in to the frequency of the planet. The pulse of the Earth had become the pulse of life.
There it is. So if I were going to look at it, I showed you what Fukushima looked like just before the event there, a HARP created event. So you see these pulses, the harmonic resonance manipulation. We see it above us from time to time in the chemical sky. This is similar to what is actually in just about every electromagnetic field, is a sort of toroid, right? A spinning that's going on in a variety of ways in our electromagnetic environment. Sometime you may feel a mood change. It may come out of nowhere, or you may have a thought that is bizarre, that really is not yours. You can't see these frequencies. I'm not hiding them from you. I'm not being covert. They just fell off the screen. I don't know why. But all of these have a frequency. You know that. Every emotion you have has a certain frequency. So my idea that your cell phone could be used to pulse you with a frequency, an emotion that is not really yours, but is really being sort of instigated in you remotely, is not all that far-fetched these days. Think remotely, because a lot of things are going on now that are remote. So all of these. So this one is very interesting to me because about a decade ago, I was editing a manuscript for an aeronautics engineer who had fallen into some trouble with the company she'd worked for back east. And when she had noticed that Dick Cheney, Martha Stewart, Ken Lay, all the old criminals of that era, that they had they would come to the little airport attached to this little aeronautics company, and even sheiks were coming from Saudi Arabia, and she couldn't figure it out, and she went into the hard drive of a computer and discovered that they were all selling American weapons to foreign powers and stashing the money in Switzerland. So she then became targeted, as she would. And I, unfortunately, was editing her manuscript, and I got hit with an electromagnetic weapon at my local grocery store one day. And what they did is they took out my vision center. It came in through this temple, and pretty soon all I had to see was, I had a periphery vision, but in the center was a big black hole. And the big black hole grew and grew and grew and grew, and pretty soon I couldn't see anything. So I just stood there and waited. I immediately put together that it was the manuscript that had earned me this great privilege of being targeted by these creeps. I even knew where it was coming from because I had done research on the corporation across the street from my grocery store, and I knew that they were dirty. So I waited until my vision returned to some degree, and then I got in my car quickly and went home and waited further, and then pretty soon my vision was returned to me. So I understood that, and now, you know, when I see this and realize it was probably a frequency they used to do that to me. Now the heart attack is another way of targeting people. Clifford mentioned that this morning. So these are frequencies, okay? And there's a frequency for just about everything now. This was a little graphic they used to use, but I don't think they use it anymore. It was called NBIC, Nano Bio Info Cogno, and it was part of a recipe for how to control the environment around us. And certainly they are doing it: nanotechnology, biological, informational technology, cognitive technologies. And it's a way to control the human domain. Here I have another picture of it. That doesn't work very well on this screen. I think I'll skip it. All right, this is us standing in our electromagnetic environment. If we could just see ourselves, we would see all these waves and transmissions moving around us, and the Internet of Things completely around us, right? It's like we're like embedded in the Internet of Things now. There's another picture, a blobby-looking picture of a dusty plasma. Electrons plus ions is what plasma is, basically.
But in the future, every square inch of every city will be alive with intelligence.
I guess this is supposed to make you feel good about your new city, your smart city.
Will have a network of microcomputers built right into them. Dr. Chris Piester calls it smart dust.
A smart dust particle or mote is a wireless sensor with sensing, computation, communication, and power in one package.
You have breathed these in, by the way. They're in you right now.
Very small.
The size of a mote today is about the size of a grain of rice.
Much smaller than a grain of rice.
And we've shown that we can make the circuitry small enough and light enough that eventually it will be possible to make things that are on a sub-millimeter size scale.
Tiny specks of computer smart dust will form a vast invisible network that can help manage the infrastructure of even the largest city.
Smart cities in the future will take this low power, inexpensive, small technology and basically distribute it everywhere.
These tiny computers record information about their surroundings, information they can send to other computers or to you. Smart dust on the tracks will monitor your commuter train so you know if it's running late. Potholes will be able to report themselves and warn your car.
Wow, great.
You'll never have to wait for
Potholes.
a radio traffic report again.
They're monitoring the flow of traffic and giving you alerts about what route is the right way to go to keep the traffic moving.
Bridges will get a coating of smart dust particles that can warn us when they detect stress fractures, helping avoid deadly collapses. But smart dust will also allow buildings and streets to recognize you and respond accordingly.
I think increasingly the environment will respond to who we are and adapt in consequence.
The city will know where you are if you want it to.
Only if you want it to.
Smart dust at the entrance will boot up your computer. And smart dust embedded in the elevator doors will automatically ring your floor.
Smart dust is going to sense the environment and allow us to improve the way that we live our lives.
No matter how we live in the future city, it will be radically different.
No kidding. And not once does he mention, oh, and you're breathing these in, but don't worry. Okay, turn Julian up.
And so if you collect those together, you can effectively triangulate someone's activities and behavior. And I don't think by chopping out many of them or adding kind of chaff, cover, that you can make that much of a difference. And increasingly it's less. In terms of Internet of Things, there's research prototypes now, which I assume are being used by intelligence agencies, of very small electronic circuits that you can just put in paper or put in paint or on the walls that are powered by the GSM stations. And they operate as the GSM radio wave passes through them. It gives them enough power for a very small amount of time to do things. So obviously that tendency is going to continue. It's not like the Internet of Things, it's if you like, intelligent evil dust scattered everywhere, like confetti in everything.
Yeah.
So I think it's increasingly hard for human beings to work out how to deal with that. And the only way I can see is that we've got to securitize this problem. Computer security industry is it's been engaged in outrageous securitization for a very long period.
Oh, and then Jillian gets into securitization. Jillian, you can't securitize intelligent evil dust. Come on. Okay, now here again, just nomenclature. Make sure you're up on this stuff. Need to know the names of these, like the micron that I still don't quite have yet. The nanometer down below, 1/1000th of a meter. That's what we're breathing in as far as sensors and everything else. Because now we're going to go into that. And remember, this is all about quantum technology, quantum mechanics. What that means basically to me, and I am no expert on quantum, but I do read a great deal about it, it means it does not behave naturally. That's the important part. When you get down to this nanoscale, and I think the next one is petascale, and the next one is, there's all kinds, smaller, smaller, smaller. You're now dealing with something that is not based on nature as we know it. That's important. So now here is the, and I wanted to make sure I have the name of these. LiDAR. Yeah, the MEMS, GEMS, and NEMS. These are the sensors that have been released in the stratosphere by the trillion, and that is, mainstream media talks about that. By the trillion. You have breathed these in, as have I. MEMS are micro-electro-mechanical systems. GEMS are global environmental MEMS sensors. And NEMS are nano-electromechanical systems. These are the primaries that are under a program called CENSE, C-E-N-S-E, or the Central Nervous System of the Earth, a project by Hewlett-Packard. I mean, who would be better for a central nervous system of the environment than a giant telecom company? I mean, doesn't make any sense. And others to place nanosensors everywhere. CENSE consists of a highly intelligent network of billions to trillions of nanoscale sensors designed to feel, taste, smell, see, and hear what is going on in the world and in your bodies and brains. It doesn't say that. I added that. So this is the beginning. Okay, now let's go on to the microprocessors. This microprocessor is nanoscale. You would not be able to see it. Even you would need an electronic microscope in order to see it, wouldn't you, Clifford? Yeah. The nanoscale is hidden from us. We can't see it. I mean, how great is that to infest an entire planet with a size that cannot be seen by the average person? So that's a microprocessor. A microprocessor is just another word for a computer. Does it go two-way? Yes, it does. It's in our bodies, I assume. It's collecting data, and it's transmitting the data. It also means, possibly, that this computer in us on a nanoscale can be programmed remotely for various functions that have been pre-programmed into it to respond to at the right moment, under the right circumstances. Who knows? When 5G gets here, everything's going to be booted upscale, big time. That's all really, to me, the 5G mainly means, is that everything is going to be really, really on. Okay, quantum dot tagging. Quantum dots. They're also very tiny. They're nanoscale. We've breathed those in. Some of them are luminescent. Many Morgellons survivors see these sparkly, usually hexagonal bits coming out of their sores from the Morgellons, or is coming straight out of the pores, because it's smaller than your pore. So quantum dot tagging is used certainly for prisoners who are released into the population, used by the military for their soldiers, but I'm sure that we have our own share of them. Then here's this is carbons, whether fullerene or this is molecules of carbon-60. Nanowires, fullerenes, lab on a chip. And here's, Clifford showed this morning. I borrowed this from his site. The Geoengineering and Bioengineering, marriage. From molecular biology to digital bioengineering, what has happened is that genetics has become a branch of information technology. It is pure information. It's digital information. It's precisely the kind of information that can be translated digit for digit, byte for byte, into any other kind of information and translated back again. This is a major revolution. I suppose it's probably the major revolution in the whole history of our understanding of ourselves, by Richard Dawkins, evolutionary biologist. This is the only slide I have on the GMOs. The only time I eat GMOs is when I go to a restaurant, which I try to make rare. And otherwise I eat organic. Whether it works or not, I feel I'm living proof. No doctors since I was 13. I'm 71 now. So here we have all the nations that are trying to prevent GMOs from being grown. Now I'm saying trying to prevent. You know how hard it is to prevent when we're all sharing the same atmosphere, right? And they're traveling on the wind and blowing into people's fields. But anyway, these are the nations. And yet in America, I don't see that, in the United States, no, not on there. Out in the corner, we have Mexico, US, Japan, India, New Zealand, and Australia. GMOs are fine with them. No problem. Environmental fibers. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. Clifford did a great job this morning. Magnification, fibers. There it is. He said, look inside. A lot of activity going on inside. Here's a filament in skin. See how raw that skin looks? Can you feel that for the Morgellon sufferers? There are, I don't know how many there are. There are many. No documentation happening of them other than efforts like Clifford's. This is from Jan Smith, who was, I think you might have referred to her this morning, Clifford, but she's dead now. She was a wonderful, she shared a lot of information early on to me, too. I don't know, how do I know she's dead? I think I talked to, no, I think I saw something written by the guy she used to go on radio shows with, and he said that. That's all. That's not very good, huh? All right, note this. Doesn't that look like, see that golden head? Doesn't that look conductive to you? This is from Harry Rhodes in England. Some of it's cut off. You can see here how in a way like a board it looks, like it's electronic board. It looks under the surface of the skin. You see all those fibers moving this way and that as they, yes, duplicate, self-assemble, but also communicate. They also communicate. This is, Harry Rhodes wrote the text, and the picture is from one of his, someone in his group that took a picture of his own Morgellons outbreak. Right. I do know what that treatment is, but I can't remember it right now. You can find it on many Morgellons sites. A lot of people are using it. I need to study it. Thanks for reminding me. Here, too, it looks like a circuit board to me. And that's like some sort of a fabric or something that is catching what the skin is, what the pattern in the skin below. By the way, that's what that is. Here is a paper. I wish it were all here. Not sure why is it smaller here? Because on mine it's not smaller. This explains how you produce living. Okay. Under the apple?
There we go.
Will it? I've got 7 more minutes. It's getting smaller and smaller. Well, that's good. That's okay. People can look it up. If you remember the name of it, synthetic organisms. Oh, it's gone now. Okay. All right. That this idea of the BCI, BMI, the brain-computer interface, brain-machine interface, and us. We're the one interfacing. We're the brain. Then there's the machine. This BMI, BCI is hugely, hugely being pursued. This is transhumanism. This is, you can boil it down to that. To get the living system connected to the cybernetic system and to create a very different being, actually, eventually. But at this point, they're just trying to experiment on as many people as possible. If you know targeted individuals, of which there are hundreds of thousands of people in their homes, in their jobs, on the street, all being targeted with electromagnetic weapons, they are all guinea pigs for that program to see how to do it. Clifford showed this morning, the sputum. Insect-like fibers are coming out of Morgellons sores. Again, what are we talking about here? Are we talking about genetics? Are we talking about programs for making insect-like things? Wings, black egg structure, all sorts of things coming out of these sores. And then this,
now,
this I don't know what to do with.
Analyze now. I'll have all the still shots go very quickly. So this has been enhanced and stabilized. And you'll see the object there in the center. It seems to have 2 small arms and a head. It looks white. And I'll actually analyze all the shape forms and that. It wants to drag the fiber in. On the edge of that fiber, there's actually what looks like a small component of a machine. It turns around, it sort of tilts. It's got a left arm, right arm, a head, 2 legs, and it tilts and it rotates that fibre so it has enough strength to drag it in. This is on the human skin. There it is. It's just now dragging it in. And it's 30. And
Which could mean
There is
programming
just-
as well,
he zooms in
appearance
again.
programming.
So it's 30 magnification. It isn't a simple film to do, obviously. Now, he's found one other one I can see there. It actually looks more brown. That's one I'll analyse on zoom shots as being a object that's
So I saw this in
brown area.
more magnification and clarity.
And it's similar to the first
And the
object.
head of this
No, this is the
entity
first object again. He's actually zoomed in on. And it's just rotating it, and he's just been able to
Looks
use
like
his
a-
feet as a leverage and his two arms.
I don't know what to call
Same
it, a
as human
gargoyle?
would do. And he now will soon pull that fibre into that skin tunnel. There's the other one there, in that opening there. So I've actually zoomed in on that one, and he'll try to
So you see,
focus.
you see how this is quantum mechanics. We're at a level that is mind altering, possibly. And no, I don't think this is CGI'd. I think this is legitimate. So here, another one that I am not going to be able to get the name of for you, but this is yet another patent for the same brain-machine interface between us and the machine. And then here, the Ebner effect is referred to, that electromagnetics can alter a species in one generation. And then this is my list of what I'm recommending to people now. It changes from time to time, and that's it. I finished on time. I finished 2 minutes.